What's up, guys? It's Chris. Welcome back to VHP Engines. This is at least, at a minimum, a day late. And that's because I was kind of, I had a soft time to start sometime during the weekend. And because I'm a procrastinator, I figured it would be sometime on Saturday or Sunday night. But what I didn't plan for that happened was I got fucking pretty hammered last night. I fucking put down a whole bottle of wine and then, like, the majority of a bottle of whiskey. So, yeah, that happened. And I wasn't even going to do it like that. And I was like, you probably shouldn't do this drunk. You're going to need clarity. And arguing with my drunk self, I was like, well, I mean, like, honestly, there's no real way to be 100% prepared for this one in particular, unless I just take notes. And I thought about, that's probably the way I should have done this. But who knows, maybe this will be one of those topics I revisit with guests, you know, because this topic right here that I've been thinking about for so long is something that it's kind of growing as we go, as time goes by, because more cars are getting added to this queue, this revolution that you could say, this reinvigoration of the car market for sports cars. So this is something, I could run the ideas by other people and see what other people are thinking. Who knows? I got to figure that one out. And also too, I had to figure out exactly how I was going to do this, because I wanted to answer questions from DMs and stuff like that. So I needed my phone. And, but I needed something to record on, so I had to, that means I was going to have to jack my kid's phone back from them and then see about logging in my credentials on YouTube, because I'm not going to try and transfer however big this video gets over to another phone and then load from there or to a computer, because I'm lazy like that. So anyway, here we go, recording. So, all right, so you could say there's a revolution in the market right now. People are saying that the cars are coming back. And I would like to say that despite my beef with Honda, that I feel like we can credit Honda for this reinvigoration. Why, right? So a couple things. The Honda has staunchly decided to keep the SI manual. It always has been, this manual car, right? And the SI is one of Honda's highest sellers. And now we bring the Type R in, because I think that you could say that the SI, always constantly showing good numbers, is a motivation to see if they can sell the Type R here and have it do well. And it did well. And it did super, super well. Not only are people willing to buy manual sports cars still, they are willing to pay a super inflated price for what is perceived as a rare gem piece of history type deal. We've only ever had one Type R in America, and it was the ITR. We've never had a CTR, so this is technically our first, Type R, even though it's a Civic Type R, but it's our first Civic Type R in America. And people went fucking nuts for this car. Now, to this date, like 2017 Hondas at Type Rs are still selling for like 38 at a low side with high mileage, to 43, even $45,000 still. I still regularly check. I've invested in how much the market is for the Type R, because I own a Type R and I am on the fence about selling it. Now, my beef with the Type R. I have a thing that I'd like to do, and it's like I judge horsepower based on price tag. Like, it has to be horsepower per cost. It has to make sense for me there, for me to want to invest in that car. And when the Type R first was announced, and when we first started getting numbers on the Type R, I was very disappointed, and it didn't make sense to me. And this is, of course, before they actually launched the car. We were getting the data before, and they were telling the price range. Now, the MSRP, I believe, for that car is like $35,000 or $36,000, which is right around the same neighborhood as the Mustang GT and the Camaro SS, which, if you know, they're both a lot faster than the Type R. a whole second, like a whole second and a half faster, like on a quarter mile. Just make a lot more power, and it's a lot quicker. And of course, right away, people are making excuses for the Type R, like, oh, this car is built for the circuit track and all that shit. It's not fast there. I get it. And from what am I poking around, I've seen, it seems like there is a decent amount of people that take these cars out and track them like that. But I'm not one of those guys. And so straight line speed is always the most important thing for me. Now, excuse me. Now, so to look at other things, other benefits of this car. Well, this car is a sedan. And this is honestly kind of where in the last week or so I realized I'm kind of being a little bit hypocritical about this car. I've said that I bought this car not because I was really into it, but because other people were into it, and it was one of those things where I wanted to get to draw attention. But it's a double-edged sword, because even despite the fact that it does, you know, draw attention and people love this car, I haven't done anything to it. And even if I do start doing things to it, they're going to be bolt-ons. So again, it's not really doing anything to it. I'm an engine builder. For me to use a car as an advertisement platform, I have to rebuild the engine. Even if it doesn't really need to be done, like, that's the thing that makes the most sense. I'm an engine builder. If I want to advertise my work, I need to rebuild the engine. Not something I'm looking at doing. So again, the Type R falls away on, you know, outweighing the benefits for me, because if I wanted to use it as like a showcase, like, it would draw attention if I did build that car and do things to it, but I'm not gonna. Now, the problem is with my Type R particularly is I spent like, I think my price tag out the door was a little inflated, because I was upside down on a SI, and at the time I was still learning about buying cars. So I didn't get the best deal, but the base price for the thing, they wanted 45 for it. I think they dropped it down to 43 so I could get it. So it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It doesn't equal the power. But why I say it is I'm being a little hypocritical about the cars, because for a long time, for many years, for anybody who's been around me, heard me say that a EK sedan, a fully functional EK sedan, you know, power steering, what's this shit called? AC, AC, what's it called? Power steering, AC, and turbo. Like, I wanted 300 horsepower, or in the 300 horsepower range, and fully functional. Well, now I have the Civic Type R, which is a sedan, it's fully functional, it's in the 300 horsepower range. Well, technically, I think it's probably like 280 something, you know, 280, 290 to the wheels, because of the fact that, you know, it's rated at 305 or some shit like that, right? And you're going to have that crank rating versus the wheel rating, which is what it's actually making. So this is why I've also said that I think if I just did a couple bolt-ons and a tune, have it into the mid-300s, I'd probably be a lot happier with the car. That extra 50, 60 horsepower potential would make a difference. Would make me happy, because the car is snappy, responsive. I do enjoy the car, but like, when you start pulling, like really getting at it on top speed, like, I've never driven anybody that car and punched it and been like, oh, you feel that? You're impressed, right? Like, I almost feel embarrassed. Like, yeah, I mean, it's quick and stuff, and it's responsive, and I love that, you know, but... So it's a fun car to drive. I just don't think it's a fun car to drive for the price tag. Like, if it would have been genuinely close to MSRP, like if I'd have paid $35,000 or $36,000 for that car, I'd have felt a whole lot better about it, and I wouldn't even be considering trading it versus I am now. And the reason why I consider trading it now, the main reason why, is because I don't want to get stuck upside down in a car that, you know, in the case of the fact that I may get bored of it in a year or two and want to trade it out, then I could be like seriously upside down in the car, because the new Type R is getting ready to drop. And now the rumors have it that the car might drop as early as June, although I don't see how that's fucking possible. Like, we've not even really seen a full reveal of the car yet. We don't know any of the numbers, but that's just the word going around in the news cycle, that it could be released as early as June, which is, that's insane. That's next month, but whatever. So, yeah, so that's my panic mode. Like, you know, I'm like, damn, I think my O, because, you know, the first year that you're paying on a car loan, you're paying mainly interest. So my note is not down that far. I think I'm a year into it as of next month, and I owe what I walked out the door, what the sticker price was. So if, let's say, the new Type R comes and all the current Type Rs, all the FK8s depreciate down into the 30s range, I'm like massively underwater on that car, which I don't like. So it'd be one of those things where I'd have to like stick it out and not trade it, just because of the fact that it would, if I traded it out, I'm looking at, you know, the cars I'm looking at are in the $60,000 range, and I'd be looking like potentially a $70,000 loan, which I don't want to do, or have to put a massive deposit down just to fucking make up the deficit of how underwater I am. And so that's my complaint with the Type R. The first chunk of this, it has to be, you know, and this is one of those things where people were, you know, talk about, like in the beginning when I was criticizing the car, like, oh, you're criticizing the car that you never even driven or anything. Like, that's the first first thing that people like to go to. Well, I'm definitely in the part of that class now where anything in the 60,000 and below range, I can freely criticize, I feel like, because I can afford those cars now. Those are the cars I'm realistically looking at buying. If I'm a potential customer, I feel I can complain about certain things that I don't like in aspects of the car. And I own a fucking Type R, so I can complain about it. But at the end of the day, my biggest complaints of the Type R, the FK8, for those of you guys that are thinking about, you know, getting one, is overall straight line speed and the price tag. Like, the car is, you know, it's not, it underperforms for the price that you're paying for it. And especially now, what makes it more important with the new cars we have on the market, it just doesn't justify the price tag. And, you know, especially now with the main competitor coming out being the GR Corolla. The GR Corolla is also going to be 4 doors, also going to be making the same power, and it's going to be all-wheel drive. And I think it's going to look just as crazy race car-ish as the FK8 does. And that's going to be a legit competitor. You know, now you're looking at a 4-door that has all-wheel drive versus a front-wheel drive 4-door. And I think that all-wheel drive thing, that's the thing I hear about the most when people talk about the GR Corolla. And I think there's going to take a lot of potential business from the Type R if the Type R continues to stay at those inflated prices. Now, the prices, of course, is going to be a major thing that I like to talk about during this whole conversation. And there's one thing I will add to it. For those of you who don't know, this is something I recently found out and recently confirmed at the dealership that, you know, you don't necessarily have to go in and pay for whatever car you see on the showroom floor. Those markups that you see are pretty much like a scarcity markup. Like, you know, they get away with marking shit up because you really want the car, how many are available in the area, how far do you have to go, whatever. The dealership can set whatever price they want. If you want to get the car at MSRP, you know, you can do that still. You just got to wait a little while. And you wait, and how you do this is by ordering the car. You sit down with a salesman and you specifically order from the manufacturer the exact car you want. You pay your deposit and you wait for the car to show up, and then you go home with it. So if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to go custom make your car and wait a couple of months for it to show up, you can do that and pay the actual price of the car. Because I was told this, didn't really believe it. I was like, well, really? And then we were at the Cadillac dealership recently. My wife's car was having issues and suspected transmission issue, and it turns out that it was, in fact, a transmission issue. But while we were there dropping off the car, of course, one of the salesmen snagged us and was talking to us about a trade-in. And I was like, yeah, we debated trading it in this year, but I decided it was just a hassle I didn't feel like dealing with right now. And so we went ahead and refinanced instead. And we plan on keeping the car for at least 1 more year. And after 1 more year, I told my wife that for sure we're getting traded out, you know, because of the age of the car. The car looks immaculate. The car's only got 30-some thousand miles on it, but the car's a 2018. So the car came out in 2017. That is an old car for 2022 going into 2023. And that's a lot of years on the car. And obviously, like, you know, we had a transmission failure, you know, and thankfully we're under warranty. So I just to err on the safe side of caution and make sure we always keep my wife in a car that has warranty. We're just going to flip over to the next car. Well, I saw XT4, I believe it is, on the showroom floor. It's it was 48,000 and change. It's a little bit out of my price range. I wanted to keep it in the mid to low 40s at most. And then he volunteered himself. He's like, yeah, well, if you want to keep the price down, we can just order you cars. That way you can pay, you know, you just get a base model and whatnot. I'm like, oh, all right then. So see, that's cool. So confirmed. And so okay, again, for those of you guys that have known me for the past couple of years, I've been complaining that, you know, I've been rebuilding my credit for the past 2 years, and it's doing very well. I'm very happy with it. I had to pay out the ass in the beginning, but it is working off. My credit is shot way the fuck up. My loan ability or my loan eligibility or whatnot is all great. I can pretty much get whatever the fuck I want that I can smartly afford or whatnot. So been complaining that, you know, back in the day I was paying what I was paying for my SI before I got my Type R was like I could have been paying for like a C7 Corvette. This is before the C8 came out. I could have got a couple of year old C7 and been paying like the same price. So I was paying for it because, you know, the credit was bad versus if I had good credit. So I started thinking about the Corvette. You know, I really want that car. Well, the C8 got announced and I was like, fuck yeah, the C8. And then the MSRP got announced, so the C8 was going to be 60 grand. I'm like, 60,000, dude. I just paid, you know, 50 all in total out the door for the Type R. I was like, the 60 is definitely doable, especially if I put a fat ass fucking deposit on it. It's not that big a deal. And my credit's continuing to go up, so even though the loan might go up a little bit, I'd still probably be saying the same price just because the rates are a lot better. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I threw it, obviously. So I was like, yeah, that's awesome. That's fantastic. And I said at the time, I was like, give me 2 years to pay off to pay down the Type R, and I'll for sure be in the C8. And then after a couple months of them being on the market, we started seeing how inflated they were. Over $100,000 for these cars. And I was like, damn, well, there goes my chance of getting that. So that made me look at the other car, you know, that was on the market that was within the similar price range of the Type R and faster. The Supra, right? So the Supra being the other car that's in this renaissance. Now, a lot of people are giving the shit for the Supra for two things. One of those two things I think is going to be quickly overlooked in the near future. One of those things being that it's a BMW. Like, it's essentially a BMW. Apparently the body is Toyota, everything else is BMW. The interior is all BMW, the engine is BMW, the transmission is BMW. But whatever. You start looking at that car looks fucking amazing. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I personally like the Mark V over the Mark IV. I've never really been a big Supra fan. Now, when I see the Supra, I appreciate them for what they are. It's a rare car or whatnot, but I don't really care. I've never looked at the Supras like, oh my God, I gotta have one. I've always felt like there were eclipses, and people thought I was a hater, like, oh, you're just hating on a car you can't have. I'm like, no, it's just not really, I don't know, I really don't like that car that much. I like the interior, but other than that, I think it's a fucking yacht, and I think the hype of what people have done in the aftermarket has overshadowed what the car actually is in stock form and whatnot. And if you're looking just to make a car powerful, I mean, you can make really any car powerful. And at that point, why would I be paying that kind of money for the Supra that, you know, I don't even really like? So, but the Mark V, I've fallen in love with. I love the body of that car. I think it's fantastic. And we've already seen that with very minimal mods, the car makes hella fucking power. And apparently they've done stock blocks up to 800 horsepower. And they sound amazing too. Sounds a big thing. That's one of my beefs with the Type R. Like, you don't really hear much from the car. You know, all these new turbo cars are all recirculating, so they don't have blow-off valves anymore, so that takes away the fun of driving. And they're just really quiet. The Supra gives you all kinds of crackles and pops, you know, even though it's an automatic car, it's that. But that being the problem is that the car's automatic. Also, the problem is the car's like almost fucking $60,000 and not really that fast. But the one thing that's great about that car is, like, you know, that horsepower parasitic loss that you have from crank rating from the factory to the wheel horsepower seems to be like non-existent. It seems like that the power actually makes more power than Toyota said, because dyno tests have given results that are equal to what the factory says they're making. So obviously something's off a little off there. And also, if you put them up head to head against their competitors, like the goddamn car is almost as fast. Like, it's almost as fast as the Mustang GT. It's almost as fast as it's like a couple tenths off. So it's not like a bad ass whooping, and that's like a downpipe and a tune, and you're beating that car. Even with the C8 Corvette, if you look at the Supra performing as a C8 Corvette, the C8 walks the car, but it doesn't drag the car. I think the C8 only beats it by 2 or 3 cars. So what it essentially is, once you get to full throttle and you really start digging into the power, like, the C8 will stretch it a little bit, and it gets to a point where it just doesn't. And the Supra stays close enough where if you're going to lift off the Supra, or if you're going to lift off the Corvette, the Supra's going to catch up to you. So it's not going to be like a drastic ass whooping. So you start thinking like, damn, well, you know, C8 versus the Supra, like, the Supra's not a bad competitor to get. It's considering the fact that the Supra's not doing so well. So you're not seeing crazy markups for it, and you can get one at a decent price, and you're not have to worry about it. But then the whole shit with fucking, you know, ordering a car from the factory and actually paying MSRP for it comes into play. And in that case, like, if you buy a ZL1, you can get it for $59,000 versus a Supra that you're getting for like $56,000 if you're getting the full package. So I'm like, well, at that case, then why the fuck would I buy the Supra? Because it's the super obvious that the Corvette would just be the better car to grab, you know. Now, here's the thing where I gotta say that Honda needs to give due credit to reinvigorating the market, is because the biggest secondary problem that the people have with the Supra was that it's only automatic. That's why I was saying that I think that the first thing, the German thing, will be overlooked once the manual Supra comes out. I think that Honda has proven to everybody that the manual is not dead. Like, people will pay well over MSRP for the specific car that's a manual car. So, and then on top of that, like, I really believe that it was Honda that you can take the credit for that. Versus, you know, if you may think that maybe Nissan made them flinch because Nissan is now coming out with the Z. And that's a whole other car that enters the fray that, like, oh my God, maybe I should be looking at the Z. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm coughing all over the place. But, yeah, and that's why I've been, like, bouncing all over the walls. Like, what the fuck car am I going to buy? I'm going to buy the Corvette. I'm going to buy the Supra. I'm going to buy the Z. I'm going to keep the Type R. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Because now that I finished now that the S2000 is almost finished and almost, you know, able to drive around, like my little bit of time I've had driving that since I've had the engine back in it, I'm like, wow, I really like this car. I'd really like to experience this more, especially at full power once it's tuned, and to see how I really feel about, you know, the urge to trade. Because the Type R, I feel a little bit more relaxed on it, knowing that my fast car is literally just a tune away from being done, and a couple of parts and a tune away from being done. So the urge to get a faster car is, you know, kind of irrelevant now. I'm gonna have one, and I do realize that the Type R could pay off for me down the road for rebuilding once I own the car. So in a perfect world, I would keep my S2000, keep my Type R, and then still buy my Corvette or Supra. You know, most likely Corvette. But it just depends on whether I can be patient enough to wait potentially years before getting into one. Now, the good thing is that the last Corvette ran, the C7 ran from, I believe that the first time I seen those on the road was around 2012, 2013. So from then until last year, that's a long stretch time, bro. It's nearly a decade that the car ran with that platform. So I could potentially wait for the C8, and, you know, even in 4 or 5 years, it's good chances are that car is still going to be in production. It is still going to be a new car when I get it. And that's what I want. I want the next car to be a 0 miles car for me. Like, my wife's going to get a 0 miles car before I am. And I'm the car nut. So anyway, I would like to have a car customly made for me, and I think the Supra is something that I don't mind waiting for to get old, versus me getting the Corvette new and having it be like a forever car, and something that I don't want to modify. That's another thing too. Like, the car that I buy new, I don't want to be doing things to it to make it what I want. I want it to be what I want out of the factory, which is why, again, underwhelmed by the Type R. I think the Type R needed an extra 100 horsepower to be like a fucking fantastic car. Like, you know, and the fact that, you know, to say that you couldn't do that and at that cost is ridiculous, because the car wound up selling way more than the manufacturer thought it was going to sell. So it's a lot less refined. It's really basic. And now we got the Z car coming out. It's going to be twin turbo 400 horsepower base model starting at $39,000. So $39,000, you're already paying less than the Type R's, and you're 100 horsepower over what the Type R is. And I've seen some head-to-head races, and it doesn't necessarily do that great, but it still runs 12s, which is great over the 13.5s, 13.8s the Type R's regularly run. I want straight line of speed. Now, overall look of the car, it's a 2-seater, so you're limited, which makes it a problem. But it's the same problem that the other 2 cars that I want have, right? So there's that 2-seater, but daily driver, I'm going to be the one driving that car most of the time anyway, to and from work, so most of the time it's going to be spent. Now, the interior of the Z looks fucking amazing versus the interior of the Supra, which is kind of bland. But then the secondary thing being the rear end of the car. The rear end of the car looks amazing. The front, I think, it looks kind of whack. It's funny, like, I know this car is a retro redesign of the 240Z back in the day or whatnot. I think if they had kept the round headlights up front instead of like the teardrop, it would have probably made it look a little better in my opinion. I think that the front end is just kind of bland and plain. There's not really much to look at. If I'm going to be paying a lot of money for a car, I kind of want that car to stand out a little bit. And just, you know, I don't know. It's one of those cars where I think only the enthusiasts are going to really look at and appreciate. Although you could argue that the interior is the most important, because that's what you're going to be seeing all the time. So there's that. 400 horsepower car, 39,000 start at, and the car is pretty fucking great. But I still think that I would go with the Supra or the Corvette. Those are the 2 main cars in the running over that. Although if you want to look at it for price tag wise, the Z automatically beats everybody. Like, the Z's a better option than everybody. It's better than the Type R. And it's better price tag, more powerful. It's competitive with the Supra, competitive with the Corvette, you know. And so that's why I say throw in the Corvette in here. That's why I say it's not really so much a Japanese car revolution, it's a Japanese sports car, as in the fact that we have the C8 Corvette that looks like a fucking supercar, kind of performs like a supercar, and is in the running with these Japanese sports car prices. It's crazy. So I guess, you know, I guess it really comes down to functionality, what all you really need it for. I would like to weigh in on the new Type R. I think, honestly, that I'm going to like the new Type R better. I think the overall body style is going to be better looking. I know we all kind of hated on the SI when we got the first looks of it, but you really have to see it at different angles to really appreciate how the car looks. Like, I've seen the Civic on the new Civic on the road a bunch of times now, and I do like it. I like the nose, how the flatter design. I like the flatter design in the rear. I absolutely fucking hate the 10th gen hatchback. It is gross. It's a fucking station wagon, and it's not a good station wagon. It's a gross, ugly station wagon. I hate the rear end of that car. And guess what the Type R is? It's a fucking hatchback. The wing does offset it, and of course the body accents offset it, so it's not so bad. So when I look at the car from the side or the front, I don't get grossed out by it. But I absolutely hate the fucking rear end of the Type R. And from looking at the car, even in the camouflage, you can tell that hatchback design may still be in existence. It's still a hatch technically, but they've smoothed it out to where it actually looks like a regular trunk versus the fucking bubble butt that we got right now. And so I think that I'm going to like the body style overall, and probably the interior overall as well of the new Type R. But I can't see me hopping out of the FK8 to go to the new Type R for the same price and most likely very similar power. Now, I've been waiting impatiently for them to release the numbers on the fucking Type R, but they haven't done it yet, which is another reason why I'm like, how the fuck are we going to get this car next month when we know absolutely nothing about it? We haven't even had an official unveil. I mean, we know what the car is essentially going to look like, but we still haven't had the official look at it yet. Don't even know the numbers. But we do know that it's going to be the same engine and it's going to be updated, but I don't expect it to be more than a 30 horsepower bump. And I think at the end of the day, it's not going to work out well. And the only good thing I can say is good and bad for me. Good thing is I think that when the new Type R launches, that the prices are going to be greatly reduced. I don't think we're going to see, we might see the initial rush of dealers marking these cars up, but I think it's going to come back down pretty quickly, especially once the GR Corolla hits the market, once the Z starts to flood the market, because I think it's coming out now, but it's not out yet. So the Z, the manual Supra, there's going to be a lot of competitors in very similar price ranges that, you know, it's going to knock back the Type R, like knock it back into its proper price bracket, because there's going to be so many options that I don't think people are going to fucking buy that, or we're going to be willing to pay that much money anymore for a car that's out there, especially now with the FK8 being the used market also probably taking a big tumble, which is why I said it's bad for me. And I think that if the new Type R comes out and the price tag is more subdued, like I think if we regularly see Type Rs being sold for 43, you know, like brand new, then you're not going to see any FK8s in the 40s range anymore. They're all going to be down in the 30s. So any current owners that if you're paying on it, you're going to probably be going underwater on it. Well, depending, I guess, on how much you pay for it out the door. You're probably going to be going underwater on it, and then I think that the FA8 is going to be great. It's going to be more marketable for entry level for people. So it's going to be great for anybody that's looking to get into one that's new. Not so great for me. It's when I'm looking to potentially move up to the next tier, the next bracket level of car. But again, you know, so like I see, the reason why I say that Honda dropped the ball isn't so much because the power rating of the Type R isn't that great. I think that it's too soon right now for this current new Type R coming out to get a big heart transplant. But I think that 400 horsepower is the new 300 horsepower. Like 10, 15 years ago, 300 horsepower is impressive, respectable. But now it's like, that's lame as fuck. Like if you're not making 400, you're not even in the game. So it's going to be hard to kind of continue to market the Type R if they're going to keep selling those here. Kind of hard to keep marketing as a proper race car when it's just so underpowered compared to its competitors. So, and when I say Honda dropped the ball, is the Integra, man. The Integra was something that pissed everybody off. They had a lot of momentum in their corner. Like, people love the SI, people love the Type R. People were mad excited about the Integra. The Integra came out. It's a four-door Civic Mutant. It doesn't look anything like an Integra at all. And the fucked up thing is, like, maybe if you would have distanced yourself from the old Integras, it wouldn't have been a big deal. It wouldn't have been such a glaring issue. But the fact that you keep talking about how it's bringing the heritage of the old Integra back, and you're literally showing promos of the old Integras with the new one, and it looks nothing alike. The car's gross. It's disgusting. But they're selling it manual. So I know that there's going to be some people who jump on it just because in the heritage factor. I think the heritage factor for Honda is bigger than any other fucking manufacturer out there. And people will buy it just for that alone. But I don't know. I don't think the Integra is going to do very well. I think that they're going to have to take this one on the chin. And reassess and come back, and hopefully we get the next generation Integra. If they do another one, will be much better looking, more true to the old one, and will come with more power, which will translate to more power to the SI, more power to the Type R. I think those cars are kind of expensive for, you know, those low ass numbers. And then you know, the renaissance we're getting to continue, like, because now, you know, Toyota's bringing back their manual Supra. Hopefully, you know, possibly get an MR2 or whatnot. Although I think that's probably kind of, you know, pushing it there for hope for that, because simply, you know, the Toyota's going to have the Supra and they're going to have the GR Corolla. I think both those are going to do very well. The Supra is going to do a lot better when we can get a manual version, and I think the Corolla is going to kill. So and it's kind of hard to see that maybe they're coming out with the MR2, but I think that we're not done yet. Like, I know that all these manufacturers are saying that they're going towards EV or whatnot, but I would like to point out to the gas shortage we had, like, was it the 70s or 80s? We had a gas problem, which is the reason why you started seeing a lot of these monstrosities like a 4-banger Mustang and shit like that, because the gas was just so expensive and there was a gas shortage everywhere. Like, it's worse than it is now back then. So they were trying to compensate for that. And it was so bad that in one generation, they decided that we're just not going to make cars like that anymore. We're just going to go this. And what happened? You get to the next generation 10, 15 years down the line, and they going back to what they were doing. I think it's great to have the electric cars on the market. I think that's great. It's great to have that option there. But I think it's silly to think that anytime soon that we're going to just go fully electric across the board. Simply because of the fact that, I mean, all of those minerals being mined are being mined with gasoline powered tools, right? And so, and then, you know, to power the electric grid, we're also using fossil fuels. We have alternatives, but the alternatives we have are not enough to sustain the entire market as is by itself. So do I think it's great that we can cut back a little bit on emissions? Maybe a little bit by not having the raw car itself spewing the shit. Fine, but I don't think that they're going to completely be able to eliminate it, especially not in the window they're trying to do it. So, I don't think that we're going to be seeing the end of the car like as we know it anytime soon, which I'm grateful for, because I've been working my entire adult life to be able to enjoy the cars that I really wanted to, and now I'm able to do that. So it would suck to finally get to the point where I can afford the cars I want and they're taken away. So I keep my little hope. I keep my hope going that we're going to see it for we're going to see regular cars progress like this for the next couple of generations. And yeah. So I guess that's, see, this is why I want to plan, because I don't really know if I touched on everything directly. I think that you kind of like skim over the surface of the topic here, and then maybe, if, like I said, I go back over with a couple people, do this again and talk about each car in depth. And I think that's probably an idea. That sounds good. Also, so I posted everywhere for you guys to drop your questions. And of course, people ignore that and they're still sending me DMs or whatnot. And that's okay, because I kind of figured that was going to be the case, because I know that I have plenty enough elsewhere where I could just go through and answer that. And I'm not going to answer everything, but I'm going to also go over the ones even the ones I've already answered. Let's see. I got to find them. It's been a while since I do that. Let's see if this works. Okay, well, I'm going to have to do one at a time, apparently. That sucks. I can't just see them all? Whatever. Oh, well, I don't know if this is like a really great... This is, I guess, like one of those things I could talk about. There's one of my most popular videos I have on YouTube. I think it's got like 80,000 views right now. It's about an oil light flicker. And it just goes to the fact that, you know, this kind of shit happens a lot. People are constantly asking, like, oh, you know, like literally asking the question of what it does in the video that I answered it. And that happens a lot. Like, so a lot of times people ask me something and I'm just like, did you just watch the video or did you just comment? And I've actually had people admit, like, when I've asked them, they're like, no, I just commented. You just didn't watch it. Well, fuck you, man. That's aggravating. So that's why a lot of times if I answer a question or ignore a question, it's because you're literally asking me to answer what the video that you're commenting on answers. or you're like, I don't understand like how some people are like these. I just want to be sure. I just want to be sure. Like I literally just said it there, and you're asking me to tell you again. So I was like, so I guess I gotta tell you 2 times. I guess I gotta tell you 2 times. I guess I gotta tell you 2 times. It's repetitive. It's repetitive as fuck. It's annoying. So, is this for a Kia Soul? I have a 2014 that the light flicker on and off rapidly. Is this the same issue with the oil pump? I'm not sure how this message thing works, but if you can let me know. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same for all cars. They all have the same similar shit. Like if your oil light is flickering, then your oil pump is failing. You're reading low oil pressure. That's what the sensor is reading, low oil pressure, and it's warning you, hey, you got a low oil pressure. So you're either low on oil or your pump is failing. And there's just no 2 ways around that, or the sensor itself is bad. So 3. And I say that in the video. There's 3 things that cause low oil pressure of the sensor going bad or the pump going bad. And a lot of times, most of the time, it's the pump going bad. Also, okay, so here's the thing. K23 is the K23 worth building? I think it's the first video I made on the K28-3, and since then, like I've gone like above and beyond with that engine. I think that we've shown a lot of stuff. I've shown a lot of stuff, that a lot of different routes you can go, and there's a lot of dyno results to show that these engines can make power doing the right things. Now, he says, I'll most definitely buy it if you have any on you. I'm doing a K-swap on my EM2. Now, I know what he's referring to. Without him going into details, I know what he's referring to, the fact that I say that you can build these engines cheap as fuck, that I get them for like $100. Both of which is very true. Now, the problem is, I'm a fucking businessman, dude. You can't come to me and ask for my services, and I'm not going to sell you the fucking thing at the price that I buy it. That's not how I make money. It's not how it works. And I don't sell long blocks through the mail. It's a hassle that I'm not willing to tackle right now. My business is run out of my crib. I'm not trying to fucking freight ship anymore. I tried it once. It worked. It didn't work out too well. So I'm not doing that. So you guys got to remember, just because I tell you something in the video is cheap doesn't mean that you're going to come to me and get it cheap, because I have to make money. It's a service I'm providing. It doesn't work that way. These videos are in the concept of me telling you to go do it yourself, not for me telling you to come buy it for me. Because I wouldn't be telling you it was cheap if I was going to tell you to buy it for me. Like a long block is just a spitball idea, $3,000 for a long block. Any long block, because the labor is the same. It doesn't matter what the engine is. Yeah, let's see you go through some more. Well, also got to remember that it's only recently I started posting again. I haven't posted like regularly like half a year, I think, because I've mentioned that if I don't have anything to really talk about, I'm just not gonna post anything, just simply because of the fact that I'm not gonna force content. Okay, so there's that. Let me go to the ones I haven't answered. Whoops, wrong button. Okay, so here's one that just came in the last 24 hours. I can swap a dual solenoid to a single solenoid. It's comment on the 3-stage VTEC. And like you're gonna do a solenoid delete? Like how you gonna do that? Did they make a plate for it? Do you expect half your VTEC not to work? Okay, so here's one. Hondas and Pizza rocker arms for F20B. What do you think about cam grinding? Okay, so if you're saying rocker arms for F20B, as in do I have rocker arms for F20B? No, I don't. What do you think about cam grinding? Now, if you're talking about grinding the cam to clear the rocker arms for VTEC, that's fucking stupid. Like, why would you do that? The rocker arms are expendable. Why would you grind the camshaft to clear the fucking the rocker arm when the rocker arms are cheap? Now, the reason why I charge what I charge for the rocker arms is because the total labor overall that goes into me preparing a set of rocker arms is enormous. It's crazy as fuck how much time goes in it. As a matter of fact, I battle myself all the time to not raise the price. Like, I've talked about this a lot. Because if you go buy, like, Ferrea rocker arms or VTEC killer, I know they're a stronger material and all that good stuff. But if you go buy a set of those, like a full set of 8, it's like $1,600 fucking dollars. You're buying a set of rocker arms for me, 8 for $200 fucking dollars. Right? That is crazy, the difference there. I could go up another fucking $400 on my price and still be well under what the aftermarket option is. Right? Now, I'm not doing that. I still think that, despite how much labor time goes into it, $200 is a fair price. Now, I have to go to the junkyard, pop valve covers, harvest the fucking rocker arms. And you got to remember, if I'm getting exhaust rocker arms, it's only 4 per engine. I have to do this to multiple cars. The junkyard I go to used to be very organized, so it used to be a little easier, but it's not. Now the Hondas are scattered everywhere. It's a lot of searching. And it's usually in blasting ass fucking sunlight and swampy ass fucking humidity, 90-degree weather. It sucks. It sucks ass. And every time I go, just to get 2 sets, to get 16 rocker arms, it usually takes me 2.5 to 3 hours. That is a lot of time wandering around in the junkyard, burning alive. It sucks. And then on top of that, I got to come back home, do the actual cutting and cleaning. That also takes a long ass time. For me to do 4, it's like an hour of cutting and cleaning. It cramps the fuck out of my hands. It sucks. So there's a decent amount of labor time that goes into turning around these rocker arm sets. So yeah, that's why I charge what I charge for them. Now, if I'm mistaken, and if you're talking about cam grinding, as in regrinding cams to make more power, because you can do that. There are shops out there who grind the lobes on the low side to make the clearance tighter, so that way when you come on the big side and you're lifting, the lift is bigger because you can make them a little tighter. So if you're talking about cam grinding like that, then yeah, I'm all for it. Like if you can, a lot of times, if you're going to find a shop that can regrind your stock cams to make more lift, you're going to find you'll be able to do that for cheaper than it costs you to buy an aftermarket. But I guess at that point, like I don't recommend specific cams because I always feel like you should go and look at the cam specifics yourself to see if it's going to be for what you want, for what you're trying to build. So I guess you got to see how much lift you can get added out of your stock cams and the price tag versus how much lift and the price tag of the aftermarket cams you're looking at. So again, if you're looking to grind your cams because you're trying to use the grinding to clear the lobes, no, that's a bad idea. It would be difficult to do too. It's not something that would be super easy. And so don't do that. It's definitely not the simpler option. And if you're looking to grind your cams for power, then yeah, by all means do that. And here's another one of those questions that are re-asking the same thing I talked about. How just asking for the stock B18B and B20, which one is stronger for stock engine? Like it's a loaded question. Which one's stronger, as in which one's going to handle more power upgrades? The B18. Which one's stronger, as in like in raw form? And power output, the B20. The B20 beats the B18 all day. It's not very super complicated. Talked about it a lot. Let's see. A lot of these questions are really not worth answering. They're really not worth responding to. Another one of those repetitive questions. I have an element with a K24A1 stock engine. I want to do VTEC with Type S cams, the TSX Type S cams. Would it be worth the wild? This comment is left on a video showing a K24 VTEC in the car, the dyno results. So look at the dyno results. Is it worth it to you to do all that work? Yeah, then do it. No, don't do it. I don't get these too much anymore, thankfully, but whatever. Nice video, very informative. I'm not saying anything. I'm not thing I'd say is wrong is there's no need for swearing or using words like you do to describe stuff. The fuck there ain't. So B20V will have torque and high end. Okay. Also for you guys, if you think the commenting on an old video that I don't see it because the video is old, that's got nothing to do with that. It's not how the YouTube comments work. YouTube comments are just like notifications anywhere else. Like if a comment hits one of your videos, doesn't matter which video it is, it comes up in your comments when you go through your Dropbox or whatnot. Okay, well, I'm trying to leave the YouTube comments there. Honestly, because most people don't comment on YouTube anyway. Most people just jump to my DMs, which is frustrating too. But whatever, it is what it is. Let's see. Quick scan. I don't want to just go too long. But here's one. This also came today. Jacob Bishop hit me up on IG. It's actually one of those ones I did answer, but yeah, whatever. Most of the time I don't, because if it's not business related directly to me, I don't like to answer them anymore because I don't want to get stuck in conversations with people just for them to waste my time and disappear. It happens a lot. Most people just come in, ask me a lot of questions, and then bounce. Even business side, like a lot of people ask me a lot of prices and shit and then disappear. Just picked up a JDM K20 from a reputable local dealer. Testing compression before installing, getting 120 PSI on cylinders 1 and 3, but only 60 in cylinder 4. Think it could be carbon or something not allowing the valve to close. There's a lot of things that could be, this is the reason why I don't just run engines. Everything I get, I tear down and rebuild. Now, I know that's not a great idea for everybody, or not everybody wants to go through that kind of hassle, but It is what it is, man. You're just gonna, if you want to run things as they are, you just have to take that risk, roll the fucking dice, you know, and see what happens. There's all kinds of different things that could be causing low compression. None of those are necessarily good, so my recommendation would be to tear the engine down. Yeah. I guess I'm probably looking in the wrong place. I probably should be looking at my requests. Yeah, because I got a long list of unanswered DMs. That one might be worth looking into. I don't know. Just saw your YouTube video. See, this is what happens a lot. I just saw your YouTube video, and I'm coming straight to your DMs to ask you a question. What do I need to do to put a white in my Civic? Need to put a white 7 block, and how do I make my white head work? Put it on. And these are the ones that I fucking hate the most. The DM is just, hello? I'm not answering that, bro. Send me your question. I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily answer most of my questions anymore. It's rare that I do. But the one guaranteed way that you're not going to get a response, guaranteed, like you're never going to get a response. You're never going to get a response to hello, and you're never going to get a response to, can I ask you a question? You're a grown-ass man, and you're already asking me a question by asking me if you can ask me a question, so fuck off. Quick question. So I got a free K23 and was wondering for the bottom end, if I just do rods and keep the factory K23 piston, would that be a viable option for forced induction power? I mean, yeah, but it's like, when it comes to the K23, I think if you're gonna redo anything on the bottom end, like if you're gonna swap anything and leave one thing stock, I would do pistons and leave rod stock. But if you're trying to milk out more horsepower, then yeah, of course you can fucking do that. The piston isn't necessarily a weakness, but again, like with nipper racing pistons, I would say do not try to push that piston past 500 horsepower. Can you do it? Most likely. But I think it's sloppy as hell. And I think that if you're gonna fucking spend the money that it costs for rods, then spend the money it's going to cost you for the pistons. Like, especially, even if you're going to just upgrade to other stock pistons, the K23 piston is a piece of shit with low compression. Like, you're not going to get the best response, you're not going to have the best feel, and you could lose races to racing against comparable power or even lesser powered cars just because of the fact that you're going to have a low ass compression engine and the response time is not going to be that great for turbo spool. So what's the point of having a 400 horsepower car if you're going to lose a 350 horsepower cars just because of the fact that your turbo's lagging? So yes, you can do that, but that's not the right way to go about it. Don't do that. Let's see here. Another thing is that a lot of people ask too is like build questions. Like people want to send me their ideas for their builds and have me review it and tell them like, what do I think? What should I go with? I'm not doing that. Definitely not doing that. That's consultation, bro. You're gonna get a free consultation from me. Like, hey, give me a list of everything I need to build an engine, and then I'm gonna go do that. Thanks. No, that's not how this works. I'm not doing that anymore. Or I do that, but I've done that on YouTube. So if you want my recommendation for how to build your engine, go to YouTube and look through my playlist. I have a K series playlist, I have a B series playlist, a D series playlist, and an H and F, even though the H and F isn't that great, but there's just not that much there. Unfortunately for you H and F fans, there's not really a lot of options. There's not a whole lot of options as there is compared to the other ones. So it is what it is. Yeah, that's another one of those. I want to build a reliable boosted K24. My goal is around 650 to 700 horsepower on a race MAP, race map. It's going to be my daily, so I want it to last. What parts should I go with? Daily map will be around 450 to 500. Record's going to be on E85. So you haven't even approached the build yet. You're already talking about you want to run 2 different maps and daily drive the car. You're approaching it wrong. Again, if you want to build info, go to the K series playlist. Also, another thing is too, I I have specific brands that I go to, and I shout them out all the time. Now, relatively speaking, I think a lot of these products out there perform very closely to each other, right? They perform very similar, and it's very similar. Now, I guess that there's going to be some people out there that want to argue, and of course, the company themselves are going to argue that their brand is better than the other guys for this and this reason or whatnot. But, you know, and like you also hear people like, oh, I heard nightmare stories about this thing failing. Well, you're going to hear that about everything. Like every single brand has lost a piston. Every single brand has lost a rod. That's what happens when you race. And there's no guarantee that, you know, at one exact power thing to give out, all you have is like, you have a power range. Like at this range, you can expect this thing to fail. This range, you can expect this thing to hold up. There's no guaranteed science. So if you hear me talking about a brand all the time, that's the brand I use. That's why I'm talking about all the time. So coming into me and asking me, hey, is this good? When I've already said it's good, it's kind of redundant and a little silly. I wouldn't be trying to sell it if I didn't think it was good. Guys, I'll never push anything on you that I wouldn't use myself. Yeah. Anyway, there's a decent amount of stuff that's here that I don't feel like answering. Like a lot of stuff is just, you know, I don't know. It's whatever. It is what it is. But anyway, I'm making good on my promise to answer some questions. So, like, again, nobody left anything specifically for this podcast, which is why I just kind of like randomly went through and picked them out. And I guess the better thing would have been to do to, you know, have them all lined up specifically in one place. But I attempted that. I tried to give us a place where I could line up all the questions to answer them quicker, but I didn't. So I had to like kind of go through and answer whatever the fuck I felt like. So it's probably going to be a while before I do another one of these, unless I can, you know, get a couple of friends and come back and revisit this topic. That would be something I would like. Yeah, I guess there's maybe one other topic I have that may be podcast worthy. I think just because of the fact that it's been years since I've gone and touched on it, and something did happen like 6 months ago that I have not let go. I'm like, I am keeping that in the pocket because I'm going to talk about this at some time. And I think it's fucking hilarious. And that is, and I'll go ahead and spill the beans on that. It's just to talk about block guards, block fillers, CSS, you know, all that shit. Again, I've talked about it ad nauseum. I'm a huge CSS fan. CSS is proven. Like it's put its work in. Everybody else, they're not proven. You're never seeing any super high horsepower cars with block filler. You're never seeing any super high horsepower cars with fucking block guards, you know. And most of the fucking ones, every single time you see somebody posting numbers with a block guard or posting numbers with those fillers or whatnot, it's numbers that a stock sleeve engine would do. So it's not impressive if it would do the same without your shit in there. Now, when you're coming and looking at CSS making 1,000 horsepower on these engine blocks. You're not seeing 1,000 horsepower with these block guards. You're not seeing 1,000 horsepower with fillers. There's a reason why that the fucking industry just doesn't use them. Now, fucking 30 years ago, when there was no options at all, you know, people were using whatever the fuck they could. You know, people were putting concrete in the jackets. Doesn't mean it's a great fucking idea. All right. And the reason why I say I have some stuff I keep in my pocket is because one of the guys who I actually respect, who decided to come out and give out reasons for it, like he was using one way of presenting it, and when I presented something in the same way, when I said it, it was irrelevant. So it was weird. It's one of those things that when like, it's most scenarios, even if I'm not the best equipped to attack them right away or respond right away, like if you give me time to think about it, I can poke all the fucking holes in the world in it. I'm like Batman when it comes to prep time. If you give me enough prep time to sit on a topic, I can really get at it. So which is why I like to spend so much time thinking about even the 5-minute videos I'm going to make, because, you know, and I've said that a bunch of times, that I spend a lot of time thinking about it. So when I present it at that moment, it's the best answer you're going to get for that thing. So that's why I don't like answering DMs, because there's things I forget that I've said a lot. You got to remember, guys, this channel is really old. Well, not really old, but it's fucking old, you know, and there's a lot of things I've said in the past that are still relevant that I just don't remember anymore. So yeah, that's it for this one. Hopefully I helped y'all burn some time. If you got any topics that you want me to talk on, maybe that's something I can do. I can't guarantee you that I'm going to take your idea and run with it, but it's a possibility. It does happen from time to time. People give me ideas that I haven't covered, and it's worth talking about. But what I would like to do is do the podcast at least once a month until I can get multiple people situated, like, you know, have a crew to bounce ideas off of. I'm not saying that I'm going to be dependent 100% on having people around. the fact that I can sit and talk to myself for an hour is a great skill to have. So that means I'm not dependent on having guests to have a podcast. I can do this whenever the fuck I want. It's just that you know, I can talk about the same thing with multiple people and get multiple ideas. Plus, that it'll be a way to introduce other people to other YouTubers and whatnot. So thanks for watching. The social media links are in the description down below, guys. And peace.